Good evening. I am Patty Robles, a member of the League of Women Voters, Wayzata, Plymouth area, and your moderator for the Hennepin County Commissioners District 7 Candidate Forum. I would like to welcome our candidates and our viewers on behalf of our hosts, the League of Women Voters, Wayzata, Plymouth area. The League of Women Voters, a volunteer nonpartisan political organization, encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League does not support or oppose any political candidates or party. The views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates and not those of the League of Women Voters. It is our purpose in sponsoring forums such as these to provide you with an opportunity to hear candidates discuss issues that are important to you. This evening's forum is provided to give you the opportunity to learn about the candidates running for Hennepin County Commissioner District 7. There's never enough time to cover all the issues in a setting such as this. If your questions were not addressed, feel free to contact the candidates directly. The rules for this evening's forum are as follows. Each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute opening statement to state their experiences, platform, and objectives. A 15-second warning signal will be given before the total time has elapsed. A question and answer period will be held following the opening statements. The answers will be confined to 1 minute unless designated by the moderator. Questions will be answered by the candidates in a rotating order. A 15-second warning will be given to the candidates. The candidates will also be given a 2-minute closing statement. Candidates, please finish your sentences quickly when you see the stop sign or you will be interrupted. No references of a personal nature will be tolerated. A person's public record may be examined, but not their character. This forum is made available to encourage the voting public to focus on the issues and not on personalities. The public has been encouraged to submit questions online in advance. Questions that are unclear, hostile, or of a personal nature will not be used. Those that fall in the same general area may be considered and consolidated. Recordings of this forum may not be used without the express written approval of the League. The League will only allow audio-video of this event to be broadcast in its entirety, except by the media reporting on the event. The candidates for the Hennepin County Commissioner District 7 are Kevin Anderson and Danny Nadeau. We will begin with Danny Nadeau to give his introductory remarks. Danny?
Hi, Patty, thank you for hosting and giving me the opportunity to talk about Hennepin, its policies, priorities, its mission, and my thoughts on our region's future. The strength of our communities, our family, and industry represent the absolute best in Hennepin. We're resilient, we face trouble head on, and for the most part, we find a way to work together on solutions at Hennepin. But right now, there are things that we all value that are under assault by some short-sighted politicians and outside interests that threaten to limit our region's future opportunities. Maybe we'll be able to talk about a few of them tonight. If we truly want to protect, preserve, and build a fair and equitable future now and for our children and grandchildren, we need to start by recognizing that others may see things differently than we do. Acknowledge where we've fallen short of our own goals and standards, practice some unwarranted grace, and most importantly, realize that not one person, not one party, think tank, nonprofit, or group has all of the right answers. I'm excited to be here and talk about Hennepin and exchange some ideas. I hope that when I'm through here tonight, you'll have a better understanding of Hennepin, how it works, why it's important to engage, and why it's so important to reach people where they are. I'm running to effectively represent my district, promote citizen engagement, demand prudent management of the county's financial resources, and promote comprehensive long-term thinking and planning for our region's future. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Kevin Anderson?
Thank you. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this online forum. And probably most importantly, thank you to everyone at home watching. My name is Kevin Anderson, and I'm running for Hennepin County Commissioner in District 7. My mom was a nurse, and my dad was a veteran, and service to my community has always been a value that was instilled from me from a very young age. Our democracy, its success depends on engagement at all levels, and local races like the county commissioner is often overlooked, but it has a direct impact on your everyday life. Investing in our transportation, health and human services, public safety, affordable housing, and caring for our environment are all central to the work of a commissioner. Well, a lot has changed in the last year since I talked to my family and friends and decided to run for commissioner. I've been listening to people across the district, and I've heard similar concerns, people looking for someone who cares about their community, who will work to get the needed investments in our transportation infrastructure, who's going to work with other leaders to get common sense goals accomplished to address the mental health needs of our students and teachers from a county level, and somebody who's going to take climate change seriously. But none of these things can be done alone. It takes trust and collaboration with state and local officials, constituents, workers, and business owners to accomplish these shared goals. I've worked for the last 20 years in IT and the last 8 years as a solution architect, helping businesses of all sizes, working across departments and groups to solve complex problems. I'm thankful for the support from the community and proud of the endorsements I've received from former and current elected officials, labor, veterans, and senior groups. I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion on the issues and earning your vote starting September 18th until November 3rd. Thank you.
Forgot to unmute myself. Sorry about that. We'll now begin with the questions and start in a rotating order. And we're going to start first with Kevin Anderson. What do you see are the top 3 issues facing our district in particular, and how do you plan to address these?
Thank you. The top 3 issues that I would say is pressing to me and the district and Hennepin County are probably going to be the mental health, addressing mental health in our community, affordable housing, and making sure that we're investing in our transportation infrastructure. I hope to make sure that we're partnering with different groups to make sure that we can address each of these things, but these are really big issues that Hennepin County has a very large role in trying to address. So I'm really looking forward to getting into them. Unfortunately, I would direct people to my website to find out more about how I would address them specifically.
Thank you. Danny Nadeau.
The 3 top issues that truly impact all of Western Hennepin County and District 7 are the opportunities for growth and how we contribute to the county as a whole. For far too long, Hennepin County, the majority on the board, has had a very, very urban-centric, metro-centric approach. And they have withheld resources into this area, and fully 15% of the property taxes that Hennepin County collects come from the western, from District 7. And so there's an equity issue. And there's also an issue as this area is developing. There's a real opportunity for the county to work closer together with municipalities as they expand and grow into more of as they grow and increase their density. So I think there's a real opportunity to work closer with the county on growth in Western Hennepin County.
Thank you. And Danny Nadeau, you'll be first on this next question. What steps will the county commissioners take to address social justice, equity, and equality?
Well, they're taking, the county is probably one of the nation's leading metro counties on those issues right now. We have a whole business line on race equity that we've been working on for months and years. We are totally, I mean, already the county is doing an enormous amount of work in our career development and our workforce and the way that we hire employees to make sure that we look at everything through a racial lens. So I don't know what in the future is going to be, you know, what those additional opportunities are. But I think right now Hennepin leads the country in this particular area.
Thank you. Kevin Anderson.
Thank you. Now, I've worked for over the last 10 years on confronting racial injustice with various groups. I hope to continue that at the county level. Recently, the county declared racism a public health crisis. And I think this is a really good first step in making sure that we are putting the resources behind actually confronting the systemic racism that is present and continues to be present in Hennepin County and really all parts of Hennepin County. I think we've been doing a lot of really good work, and I would like to continue doing that work, but it's going to take deliberate effort in confronting these barriers that people of color experience in so many different aspects of their life.
Thank you. Speaking of the resolution, Hennepin County Commissioners passed a resolution at the end of June recognizing racism as a public health crisis. What specific ideas do you have to address racism and to work to advance this resolution? And we're going to start first with, let's see, Kevin Anderson. Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. So I think the specific things that I would look to do is look to how we can address racial disparities in housing and access to public transportation. I think we know that being able to get from your home to your job is essential to being able to build your way out of poverty, which is very often concentrated in communities of color. So I think that if we can look at these things not in a silo of just housing or just transportation, but how they play together and how we can make sure that we're addressing how the whole system is working, I think we'll be more effective at addressing the disparities that persist in Hennepin County.
Thank you. Danny Nadeau.
I think we have to be careful with this. You know, there's a role for the county to play for sure. And there's, you know, I mean, right now, society is blaming every social injustice on law enforcement. And that's not only nonsense, it's a little bit crazy. So I think we have to be very cognizant and very careful. And actually, you know, about 2 or 3 months ago, I convened a group of, you know, small Black businessmen, and, you know, trying to determine what are the opportunities and what's the response that the county can have, or people in general. And I think that the answer is not what the county can do, it's how the county can listen to the communities that are struggling under, you know, whatever injustice there is. That's where, I mean, I think we have to listen more. And I think the county has started that with their advisory councils, and they're doing a really good job at that.
Thank you. The next question, Danny Nadeau. What could be done to address the difficult challenges facing small businesses because of the pandemic? Please be specific.
So far, you know, COVID-19, and we can argue about whether or not the response was appropriate, inappropriate, enough, not enough. The county received about $220 million in CARES Act dollars, and a significant portion of that money went to small businesses. Is it enough? No. I think that the county has to look at its spending. It has to look at its burden on small businesses. It has to look at where it can provide more assistance, but at the same time, where it can reduce regulations, where it can make doing business with the county, both in minority, small businesses and regular businesses, how can we do a better job of making sure that we've got more opportunities for more people across the board? We're going to struggle, and there's going to be a huge, hopefully this will come up, we're going to have a huge tax issue coming forward if these leases in large buildings in downtown Minneapolis are not renewed. And there's going to be a shift on who pays in the future.
Thank you. Kevin Anderson?
Thank you. I know from my work with businesses of all sizes that running a business, particularly a small business, is stressful and complex in a normal time. Add in a global pandemic and no real stability in national leadership in addressing the pandemic, and you get widespread unemployment, civil unrest, and complicated assistance programs that make business owners really struggle to try to figure out what their next 6 to 12 months looks like. I think some of the things that the Hennepin County can do is help provide resources to navigating those assistance programs. It's absolutely true that we are going to be dealing with some huge financial issues, and it's going to have a huge impact, and we need to be there for our business community to make sure that we're lifting them up and helping them navigate these waters in the next year ahead.
Thank you. Kevin Anderson, you'll be first with our next question. Currently, whoops, I just lost that one. Currently, the city of Plymouth and Hennepin County are negotiating a jurisdictional transfer of County Road 47. Please describe how you feel about this transfer, this jurisdictional transfer, as well as the safety of the current conditions of this roadway.
Yeah, that's really important. I live just a few miles away from County Road 47, and I know that the winding nature of it and the additional developments that are kind of being built up alongside it are making it a dangerous place for families to raise their families. There's parks on the opposite side of where development are, and so people are wanting to cross over, they're wanting to walk. I think that it's probably overdue that some serious consideration has been being put into that specific road, and I hope that the county and Plymouth can work it out and make sure that it's that we have a workable solution moving forward, because right now it's not a safe situation for the families.
Thank you. Danny Nadeau?
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that County Road 47 is just one. We've got a number of county roads especially in the 7th district that are going to be challenging moving forward as these communities develop. County Road 47 specifically, I think the city and the county have done a really good job on getting together, getting that study out there, putting some numbers to it. And the jurisdictional transfer is really only a part of it. I mean, there's safety components that we're looking at, additional access and mobility because of it. But moving, we will find a way to do that, but people need to recognize that jurisdictional transfers are incredibly complex and they boil down to money. And right now, the vast majority of sales taxes, we have a 0.5% sales tax captured in this county, and 100% of that sales tax goes to transit. There is money that we could put into roads and bridges if we could get the majority of the board to decide that some of those dollars could be used for roads and bridges and not save it all for fixed guideway. So there's opportunities there.
Thank you. And our next question, Danny Nadeau, you'll be first. In their budget decisions, commissioners decide the funding for, speaking of transportation, decide the funding for programs and projects in transportation, human services, public safety, public health, energy, and environment. What are your budget priorities?
What are my budget priorities? So, Hennepin has a $2.5 billion budget. We collect about $875 million in property taxes. And I don't think that you can have a I would submit that right now we've got far too many priorities. We need to hone in and make our delivery systems far more effective in both health and human services, in our service centers, so that we can slow the growth that's happening in those areas. We need to make sure that families are being served. And I guess that's my priority. I mean, my priority is that regardless of where those dollars go, because one person on that board is not going to dictate whether we spend more or less, it has to be a majority. So I think that my goal is to make sure that those dollars that are collected and spent, they're accountable. We evaluate those programs, we measure their impact, and we make sure that there's a return on it wherever they are.
Thank you. Kevin Anderson?
Thank you. I think that budgets are really about values. And so the places that I want to make sure that we're directing our values to is making sure that we balance out some of those inequities in transportation funding. I was looking at some of the numbers, and over the last 10 years, District 7 has gotten about 1% of the transportation investments that any other, of the total of Hennepin County. And so I think I want to make sure that we're balancing some of that out, and it's going to take work alongside the other commissioners to do that. Another thing that I really want to make sure that we're doing is addressing mental health for our residents. And we do that by partnering and working more efficiently with our budget dollars so that we can partner with schools and libraries to get those professionals where people already are. We also need to make sure that we're paying attention to our environment to address those climate change.
Thank you. Speaking of mental health, what are your, giving you an opportunity to be more specific about your priorities in mental health, what are your priorities when it comes to mental health support and funding in Hennepin County? And Kevin Anderson, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Yeah, mental health is a huge issue. And this has been an issue when I started talking to people about over a year ago that came up time and time again. How are we going to be addressing mental health issues? And the thing that I have come back to is if we build collaborative approaches with our schools and our libraries, which seems like a pretty natural fit for the county, we can meet people's needs where they already inhabit those spaces. We can do better with our dollars by proactively finding and addressing needs early before they become a crisis level. And that would be my priority in how we can move forward and address the mental health needs that are only going to be exacerbated by this year in school and young people and in teachers. So I think that's where we're going to see the most value.
Thank you. Danny Nadeau?
Yeah, I think that's naive, unfortunately. Libraries are, Hennepin County already partners with schools to provide, mental health services to challenged youth in schools. And we lead the country in this. Minnesota has led in this thing. I think we need to get the facts straight. I think we need to understand what truly are the needs of those people. I mean, you look at our criminal justice system, there's fully 60-70% of the people involved in our criminal justice system that have some level of mental health need. People that are in homeless shelters, that are in rapid rehousing, they have a significant high level of mental health needs. I mean, we have to address those issues, and we have the capacity to do it at Hennepin right now. We have to address those on an individual basis and stick to the facts, and not have these large political, statements that say we have these massive mental health problems, because it's just not, they're out there, but we have to address them from an individual basis, one at a time. And that's the only way we're going to get there.
Thank you, Danny. Our next question, we're going to start with Danny Nadeau first, and it is, what specific steps can the county commissioners take to mitigate the high unemployment rates due to COVID-19, especially in communities of color and for lower wage earners?
Yeah, I think this goes back to what I said a little bit earlier, is we have to look at our role as the county. The county can't create jobs. The county can and does have an enormous amount of capacity and infrastructure to retrain, to provide diversionary work programs for individuals that have been laid off or are unemployed. And we need to double down on those, and we need to hold. And the county itself does not provide those services. We use community-based service providers for those services. We need to build more evaluation, more measurement, hold those community-based service providers more accountable, hold the clients accountable, and then measure the long-term effects of what exactly we're doing, what works, and we bolster it, we celebrate it, we double down on it, and what doesn't, we jettison it. We get rid of it. We throw it out, even though there's going to be a advocacy group around it. But we have to have the strength to focus on good programs and get rid of bad ones and stay within our lane.
Thank you. Kevin Anderson?
I think that in some things, I think Danny and I agree. We need to make sure that the county is staying in our lane. The county is not going to be able to wave a magic wand and fix unemployment. Some of these things are far bigger than Hennepin County, and we are going to have to partner with the different levels, whether it's in the community and the business community, to state and federal officials, to make sure that we are building our way out of this. But I will say we can't cut our way out of trying to recover from a pandemic that has decimated our business community. And so we need to find ways of investing in our infrastructure that can help put people to work. We need to make sure that we are finding ways of investing in our business community to make sure that they have resources they need to be successful.
Thank you. Our next question, we're going to start with Kevin Anderson. And we got a couple questions on affordable housing. There are four sources for capital funding for affordable housing that the county can use: the home funds, the transit-oriented development fund, affordable housing initiative fund, and supportive housing fund. Can you explain how you will maximize the use of these funds to increase the availability of affordable housing units in District 7? Kevin Anderson.
A minute to talk about four funds and how best to utilize them. I think what I'm going to work on and focus on is trying to make sure that we are partnering with the experts. I'm personally not an expert in all of the funds, and so I'm going to rely on the experts within the fields to help guide that process, because affordable housing is a huge issue in Hennepin County. And what I would really like to see happen is diversifying where our affordable housing units are located throughout Hennepin County, so that we don't have pockets of low-income affordable housing without access to jobs and mobility. So I think that we need to start and kind of be looking at this in kind of a holistic fashion, instead of on these specific programs or funding sources. We need to look at how those funding sources can accomplish our goals.
Thank you. Danny Nadeau.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good question, and it could have an hour debate on its own. Again, the thing to remember to the questioner is that zoning is really controlled by the municipalities. They're the ones that control whether what the densities are. But to the question specifically, we earmark dollars, so TOD dollars only go along transit corridors, and then that limits the availability for other dollars. And if there's no transit corridor in our district, there's zero TOD dollars available for District 7. I think that's a bad policy. I think the county's good policy, though, is that we truly try to make sure that the dollars that we utilize are the last dollars in, and they focus on the most vulnerable of the people. So we try to focus those dollars on people who are 30 to 50% AMI, that have the largest challenges. And then we wrap those dollars a lot of times with services, with our community-based service providers, to make sure that the people that are in there that are getting that stable housing are able to step up the ladder. We need more time on that question. I'm sorry.
I know that question it was a complex one, and I would encourage voters to please reach out to the candidates for more information on their ideas for that. It was quite a complex one. Given the next question, Danny Nadeau, you're going to be first. Given the upcoming financial issues Hennepin County will be facing due to the pandemic, what are your ideas to address the budget impact?
This is hard. There's a lot of unknowns. The commercial industrial market and the value of those assets, depending on how the assessor treats those in the future, is going to be a real issue. It's probably not going to be a huge issue in pay 20, but it is going to be a massive issue in pay 21 if we don't get businesses and employees back to work in society. But overall, I think the county has to. It has to focus on efficient delivery of services. The county is not a sexy service delivery system. It delivers those really, really hard services, vital services to our most vulnerable children and kids in foster care and child protection, single parents that are struggling to work and keep their kids in a stable house and at home. We have to focus our energy and our priorities and our resources on that population. And if we do, we will move those people out and we will create more capacity.
Thank you. Kevin Anderson?
Yeah, I think that we're going to have such a big lift to address this in the next year and years ahead, because the pandemic has really impacted every aspect of life. And so right now, I think the big thing that we need to recognize is that it's still happening. It is still a part of our lives, and we can't pretend like it has gone away just because we're sick of dealing with it. I think that we are in serious need of national direction to address this. And at the county level, we're going to have to partner with experts across the spectrum of services to make sure that we're meeting the needs as they're coming up. So,
Thank you so much. Our next question is on climate change. Climate change is one of the biggest issues being discussed, of course, second to the pandemic and the economic impact of it. But it's still a big issue. And what are your thoughts on climate issue and the county commissioner's role, if any, in addressing it? Kevin Anderson, you'll be first.
Thank you. Climate change is bigger than any one person, one level of government. It is such an important issue, and we need to make sure that everybody is involved in finding ways of addressing it. So I think that there's things that the county can do and are doing, right? Like we have great programs for recycling, composting, and being better with our dollars. Investment in our transit infrastructure is something that helps climate change by reducing reliance on individual vehicles. We can move people more efficiently. I think that we can also do more by partnering with housing developments to maybe provide some incentives to get electric vehicle charging stations as part of development. And I think that we can do these
Thank
things.
you.
Thank you. Huge.
Danny Nadeau.
Yeah, thank you. That's a tough question. It's there's not, again, you have to look at what the role of the county is doing. And I think the county is doing almost everything it possibly can. It's looking at an electric fleet. We do have we have charging stations. But I think that the questioner is probably, what can the board do as a policymaker to try to push for, cleaner environment? And I do think that the board has a platform to do that. And Kevin brought up a couple of things with with organics and recycling. We just had to dump a bunch of organics into a landfill because because of COVID. We couldn't utilize them. And again, we need to have a market for these things. We can't operate in a vacuum. And we're spending millions and millions of dollars to collect organics, which is good. We're diverting them from a landfill and we're turning them into topsoil. And that's fine. But why don't we have an anaerobic digester somewhere that can take these things and turn it into fuel so that we can actually use it for something other than topsoil?
Thank you. This is going to be our final question before your closing statements. And we'll start with Danny Nadeau first. Was there anything you wanted to address that wasn't asked in this evening's forum?
Oh, I didn't expect that question. So, I think that since I have 30 seconds, I think that we have an incredibly informed electorate, but I don't think that we have a very educated electorate when it comes to county, what the role of the county is. As I mentioned previously, this is hard work. It's really hard to deliver these services and focus on those things. Elected officials like to cut ribbons. We like to build big buildings. We like to build, trains. Those are all fun, all very important. But the vast majority of the work that we do at the county is underground. It is really delivering those important services and supporting those families. And our focus has to be to move families up. We can't have a social service net that's a landing pad. It has to be a launching pad, and it has to move people up and out. And I think if we focus on that, we will be very successful at the county.
Thank you. Kevin Anderson?
Thank you. I appreciate that that I had that extra time to think of what something that didn't get asked. I think one thing that had gotten mentioned and we didn't really touch on here is policing and public safety. And so I have family members that are in law enforcement, and I think that there's been a lot of fear mongering about people wanting to blame law enforcement for all of our problems. We heard some of that earlier today. I think that that's wrong and dangerous, and we need to make sure that we are doing things that are promoting public safety. And so I think that comes down to housing stability. It comes down to investing in our business and making sure that we have jobs and addressing all of the things that we need to do. And sorry, I have to stop. So
Thank you. Well, it's time for closing your closing remarks. So perhaps you can weave whatever else you would like to into your closing remarks. And we're going to start first with Kevin Anderson. You have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
all right. Thank you again to everyone. And I just really quick, some of the things that I wanted to make sure that we talked about was that we are in the western suburbs. We normally don't see, we're not confronted with a lack of safety because we invest in those things that keep our communities safe. And I think that we need to make sure that we're doing that at all levels. So thank you again to League of Women Voters for the forum. Thank you, Danny, for the discussion. I think it was really productive. There's huge challenges facing whoever is honored to serve District 7. And I believe that my experience in volunteering in the community, partnering with schools, and working with businesses has really prepared me for confronting the challenges that's going to be present moving forward. I know that we can do better when it comes to prioritizing our transportation infrastructure in District 7. The fact that over the last 10 years, our district has received less than 2% of the overall transportation investments shows that I think we need new leadership in District 7. I'm willing, and we need a leader who's going to be working with other commissioners whenever possible to make sure that we are finding ways of accomplishing our shared goals, like keeping libraries open and building better ways of delivering mental health services. And I don't believe that you can do that by saying that people who disagree with you are an enemy. I don't think that's productive. Now, I think that all of this isn't just about me, though. It's about all of us. And I hope that everybody can take some time to visit my website, votekevinanderson.com, to learn more about me, sign up to volunteer. Because I think when we're investing in each other, there's no problem we can't solve.
Thank you. Danny Nadeau.
Thank you again. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for, hosting this discussion, and anybody who's watching and stuck with us, through this whole virtual program. Thank you. County government is complex. It's the delivery mechanism for so many important state and federal programs. And these programs are vital to the folks we serve. And not only do we need to ensure that the families impacted are better off, we owe it to those paying the bills to do it efficiently. All of us want a strong, broad social safety net. We all want it to be a launching pad to economic, career, and housing ladders, and not a landing pad. Too often, we get sidetracked with too many shiny new objects at the county and initiatives. And when we do, we have fewer resources available to those people who are truly in need. Now more than ever, I believe we need strong, experienced, good leaders. Good leaders, they're respectful, they're experienced, they build relationships wherever it's necessary. They listen, they engage, they guide us, they find that balance and make those large-scale decisions that keep our world and they keep Hennepin County moving forward. They focus, they prioritize, they ignore political expediency, and they're dedicated to a mission. I promise that I'll do my best to be that good leader. And if you'd like to learn more about me or help me in my race, I'm easily found at DannyNadeau.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This concludes the Hennepin County District 7 Candidate Forum. We want to say thank you to the candidates for running, for loving their communities enough to want to run and contribute. The League of Women Voters, volunteers, and those viewing this event on cable and video for your participation in this forum. Thank you to the City of Plymouth for supporting this event and to CCX Media for recording tonight's forum. On-demand viewing can be accessed at ccxmedia.org, as well as the League of Women Voters Wayzata Plymouth Facebook, Twitter, Instagram pages, or on our website at www.lwvwpa.org. Please remember to vote in the November 3rd general election by absentee ballot or in person. Your vote is your voice. League of Women Voters welcomes new members, both men and women, at www.lwvwpa@lwvmn.org. Or you can join our league by visiting our webpage. Thank you and good night.